If you want a quick summary of where additive manufacturing is headed, it's this. Additive isn't being judged as a novelty anymore. It's being judged like manufacturing. And heading into 2026, that shift changes everything. If you want to do more research yourself, I've included all of my sources in the description down below. And with that, let's get started. Let's give a little bit of industry context. According to industry data from Wohlers Associates, the global additive manufacturing market reached about $21.9 billion in 2024, growing over just 9% year over year. But the important detail isn't the growth number, it's actually how that growth is being evaluated. Wohlers also pointed out that this growth hasn't been evenly distributed, with much of that being driven by Asia, particularly China, while other regions were a little flatter. At Vision Miner, this lines up perfectly with what we're seeing on the ground. Customers aren't asking what's possible anymore, they're asking what's repeatable. Consumer volume versus industrial caution. Here's where 2025 really clarified things. According to market intelligence firm Context, more than 1 million entry-level 3D printers shipped in a single quarter in early 2025, representing roughly 15% year-over-year growth. At the same time, Context also reported that industrial system shipments declined, with polymer systems actually taking a bigger hit than metals. Now that doesn't mean demand disappeared, it actually means the expectations shifted. And heading into 2026, those consumer-driven expectations around automation, reliability, and ease of use don't just stay in the low end, they actually move up. Over the past few years, there's been a number of entry-level FDM 3D printers that are virtually almost as easy to use as a microwave. It's basically just a one-click print, and you get your part. Gone are the days of manually tuning, bed leveling, and all these other things. The barrier to entry to 3D printing just keeps getting lower and lower every year as automation increases. As we've seen, there's now automation in the bed leveling and tuning processes that make things so much easier. For the industrial space, it's actually great that the hobby end has so much automation because it pushes expectations up to make industrial machines smarter and easier to use. For example, our 22 IDEX V4 has a lot more automation improvements over the V3 that make it significantly easier to use, cutting out time that would be wasted over tuning materials, for example. For years, additive manufacturing conversations were driven by capability, higher temperatures, new materials, bigger machines. But according to industry coverage coming out of Formnext, the conversation is actually shifting more towards industrial maturity. In 2026, throughput actually matters more than capability. Industrialization means predictable output, stable processes, and repeatability, not just impressive specs on a datasheet. From our side at Vision Miner, this is something we've seen very clearly. A lot of customers initially focus on peak nozzle temperature or the most exotic material that they can run. But the projects that are actually making it into production aren't the ones pushing the absolute edge. They're the ones where the process is dialed in, the material choice is appropriate, and the part can be made in the same way tomorrow as it was today. Especially in aerospace and advanced R&D, repeatability beats novelty every single time. Before we move to the next topic, if you're interested in a 3D printer or a 3D scanner, check out our website, give us a call, or shoot us an email. We deal with this stuff all day long, and we're happy to lend our expertise to help you find a 3D printing or 3D scanning solution, whether we sell it here, like our 22 IDEX V4 back here, or if we don't sell it. We'll steer you in the right direction and answer any questions you may have. Now, back to the video. One of the clearest trends we've seen at Vision Miner is how high temp thermoplastics are actually being used in the real world. Not just for test coupons and not just for fit checks. We're talking about aerospace components, research hardware, motorsports applications, and low volume production parts that are seeing real environments. In several cases, these parts are operating at elevated temperatures, exposed to vibration, and expected to perform repeatedly, not just once. What's interesting is that most of these customers didn't just start with ultra high-end materials. They started with PLA and ABS, hit the limits almost immediately, and then moved up to the material stack as requirements became clear. By the time they landed on materials like carbon fiber reinforced nylons, PEC, or PEEK, the decision isn't theoretical anymore. It's driven by failure data. In aerospace specifically, we've seen additive manufacturing compress timelines in a very real way. Teams that used to wait months for machined parts are now iterating multiple designs in that same window. And once a design is proven, it often stays additive. Not because it's trendy, but because the cost, the lead time, and the design freedom that still makes sense in low volumes. As qualification pathways mature, this pattern only becomes more common heading into 2026. One of the clearest themes coming out of Formnext reporting is this. In most real production workflows, printing isn't the longest step. It's actually post-processing. This is where labor adds up, variability shows up. This is where scale often breaks, and low volume production is a great example of this. We've worked with customers who don't need 10,000 parts. They need 50 or 100 or 500, and they need them without tooling. without long lead times, and without locking into a design too early. For those use cases, additive doesn't replace traditional manufacturing, it just removes the friction from it. Based on broader manufacturing analysis, including reporting from Deloitte, 2026 is likely to see more investment in automation, monitoring, and analytics specifically to address these bottlenecks. Now, this is the unglamorous side of additive manufacturing. It's also the side that enables scale. According to organizations like ASTM and ISO, additive manufacturing standards now cover terminology, performance measurements, quality, and calibration procedures. America Makes and ANSI have also highlighted that there are still significant gaps across the additive lifecycle, particularly around qualification and consistency. The takeaway heading into 2026 is straightforward. Companies that treat standards and qualifications as a system, not a checkbox, move faster with less friction. Defense organizations have been very explicit about how they view additive manufacturing. According to the US Department of Defense's additive manufacturing strategy, AM is considered a strategic capability, particularly for sustainment and supply chain resilience. Groups like the Defense Logistics Agency are actively integrating additive into logistics and provisioning workflows. That focus on trusted, qualified manufacturing isn't going away in 2026. Another trend that's becoming harder to ignore is sustainability. For example, Apple has publicly detailed using laser powder bed fusion to produce titanium watch components, citing near net shape manufacturing and reduced material waste. That kind of mainstream example matters, because heading into 2026, sustainability isn't just a marketing message, it's increasingly a purchasing filter. Expect to see more RFQs asking about recycled content, material traceability, and waste reduction. According to Deloitte's Manufacturing Outlook, the majority of manufacturing leaders are planning significant investments into smart manufacturing initiatives. Additive doesn't get a pass here. In 2026, AM workflows become more connected, more logged, and more governed by data. Closed-loop monitoring, traceability, and parameter control move from nice to have to baseline expectations. So who wins in 2026? The winners are the companies that treat additive like production. They invest in the workflows, they document the processes, they train people, and the losers are still optimizing print time while ignoring everything that comes after. That gap only widens. From our perspective, the companies that will succeed with additive in 2026 won't necessarily be the ones with the biggest machines or the most exotic materials. They'll be the ones who understand their requirements, build solid workflows, and choose the right level of technology for the job. And that's where we've seen work in aerospace, research, motorsports, and low-volume production. And we don't see that changing anytime soon. If you're planning for 2026, don't ask what printer you should buy. Ask what workflow you need to run parts repeatedly. That's the trend that matters most. And if you're interested in incorporating additive manufacturing to your business, check out our website, or give us a call or shoot us an email. We're happy to consult and point you in the right direction, whether it's a solution we sell, such as our 22iNext V4 back here, or the Formlabs lineup of MSLA and SLS 3D printers. We'll point you in the right direction so you can get started with additive manufacturing today. And with that, I'll see you on the next video.